Sbu Ngalwa, still with us live there outside St. George's Hotel in Irene. So Sbu, that is a net joint statement, I suppose, indicating that it was somewhat of a joint operation with the police leading this particular rescue.
Thabo, the net joint obviously is the operation arm of the Justice, Crime Prevention and Security cluster. So it tells you that those departments got together, and I guess in a way that also talks to the seriousness of the situation with which the government saw what was unfolding here. The fact that you had that joint operation now, normally, as you know, that as we were dealing, for instance, with the recent unrest, and also as we were dealing after the declaration of a state of national disaster in 2020, rather, in March 2020, we had net joints being part of that cluster that regularly briefed the National Security Council. Now, the JCPS cluster is a cluster that includes the Department of Defense, the Department of the Police, the Prisons Department, and the Department of Justice, and I guess by extension, the Department of Correctional Service. So this is the security structure of the country, as they were represented here by Vish Naidu earlier, and I guess it also, Thabo, kind of validates what we have been saying about how serious and how dire the situation, and actually how dangerous the situation could have been, considering the fact that these are not just ordinary civilians. Yes, they may not be members of the South African National Defense Force, but these are people who were trained militarily. Yes, they are claiming that they came here peacefully, but I guess the peace was broken at the point where they barricaded those doors, hence that forced entry by members of the South African Police Service, rescuing the two ministers. Now, that is the Minister of Defense of South Africa, Thandi Modise, and her Deputy Minister of Defense and Military Veterans, Thabang Makwetla, and the spokesperson of government, I would say. In fact, the minister in the presidency, or depending on how you view it, some people see his role as quite important, and some saying that it's perhaps that of a de facto a prime minister. So this was a very strong delegation. This was a very senior delegation, and the fact that they were held against their will kind of underlines how dire and how dangerous and also what could have happened here tonight, Thabo. And I guess if the members of net joints had not considered the situation to be serious, they would not have stormed that room, because as you can see from the footage that we had earlier, that they seemed to have been some kind of negotiations, but not your free negotiations by free will, but rather forced negotiations, where you could see the Minister of Defense, who in her own right is a military veteran, having trained militarily outside of the country and having been a member of MK, and I'm sure her coming out here was actually part of the president or part of government's way of communicating to the members who are here that they take this matter seriously. But of course, Thabo, we are merely 3 weeks away from a local government election, and you've seen the president crisscross the country. You've seen the deputy president in various provinces. In fact, the president will be in the Free State over this particular weekend, Thabo. This particular weekend, he will be in the Free State, and the deputy president, whom these members were demanding, whose presence and whose company they were demanding, is actually supposed to be in the Northern Cape tomorrow as part of the government's vaccine drive. As you know, that with the declaration, or rather the migration of the country from level 2 to level 1, what we saw, Thabo, was that the government announced a extended vaccination drive in the country. He is expected to be in the Northern Cape. The big question is, will he travel to the Northern Cape tomorrow? And another question, which these 6 scenarios that I'm painting out, Thabo, may be unrelated, but I guess it's worth exploring. Nevertheless, the fact that we had expected the president today, that is Thursday, he was expected to be in Chawelo Chiawelo, Soweto. Now, Chiawelo, Soweto is where he grew up. But also, Chiawelo, Soweto is the scene where his sister, who still lives in the Ramaphosa family home, was threatened by members of the community. Obviously, you know of those running battles between the members of the community of Soweto and the and Eskom over the disconnection of electricity in that area. And in the reports that were read at the time, they were actually saying that the members of the public, of the community, were demanding that the president comes and addresses them. And I guess the fact that he did not go to Chiawelo, we were not given reasons. All we got was a statement from the ANC that said that he had to attend to some presidential matters. Now, these are presidential matters that you and I do not know, Thabo, which we're not privy to, but I guess one can somewhat not necessarily draw a parallel, but actually look at this situation in isolation, given the fact that also these members of the military veterans had to be removed from Luthuli House, and they were telling us, Thabo, that they had been there since Monday. And I guess if you look at the fact that today is Thursday, and they were still saying, and I guess up to the point where they were arrested, they were still saying that they would not leave here until the president comes to address them. What does this mean, Thabo? We don't know how this story is going to unfold, but I guess what it tells us is the hostility now that exists between the government, because obviously when the police and the military and net joints comes in and they arrest some of these members, that merely heightens the tensions here, Thabo. And I guess it, in a way, kind of tells us the kind of a relationship that government and, by extension, the president and his deputy and the government of President Cyril Ramaphosa will have with these ex-combatants, now that 56 of them have been arrested. And already, as they reach this point, which is the point where they hold the minister, 2 ministers, hostage, they already felt that the government was not taking them seriously. In fact, they are saying today, David Mabuza, the deputy president of the country, was supposed to be here, and he did not make that meeting at 5 p.m., which is what led them to do what they have done. Obviously, now they've broken the law. They are criminal suspects, and we do expect that at some point they will, charges will be pressed against them. I don't think government will, in trying to save face, they will let this go. A crime was committed here tonight, and I'm sure they will have to then be processed and be criminal suspects, and that will kind of define the kind of relationship that we will see between these ex-combatants and the government of President Cyril Ramaphosa. Thabo.
Feeling undermined, the ex-combatants, certainly by the deputy president not honoring that appointment with them. However, Sbu, we are not going to be able to escape the situation of the private security, or shall I say the